If you have the audacity to type https://lostmediawiki.com/home into your browser, you'll come across the very foundation that holds the majority of this YouTube channel up. The holy grail of information, commerce, and life itself. The site that keeps this world spinning. All jokes aside, the Lost Media Wiki is by far one of the most useful resources that could ever be granted to this Lost Media channel. The sheer depth of content on this site, with users from all across the interwebs coming together to document pretty much every piece of lost content ever, is pretty mind-blowing to say the least. That includes me, by the way. I edit for the LMW2 like a true Lost Media prodigy would. But one way I like to take full advantage of this interesting info on the wiki that I feel gets overlooked is by going up to this little on the wiki toggle and clicking on the random page button, which does exactly what it says, taking you to a random Lost Media topic on the wiki. While many wikis have something like this, it especially works for the LMW, as this button can take you down intriguing Lost Media rabbit holes that you never would have discovered otherwise. I've even gotten a few video ideas off of just clicking this one little button. So I, Bray, want to return this favor by finally giving this little button the attention it deserves. You've read the title. This video will be featuring 25 pieces of Lost Media determined by the random page button on the LMW. Wherever the button lands me, I'll cover it here, rinse and repeat 25 times over. Hopefully we won't land on anything too grotesque, though considering this is a longer one, it'll probably happen at some point, so viewer discretion is advised. Maybe. I'll put up content warnings if and when I need to. So, enough stalling already, let's get on with this randomized Lost Media adventure. So, where do we begin? Well, yeah, I guess we're starting off with a pretty big one right off the bat. If you've been into the Lost Media scene for a bit, you've certainly heard of this one. So, Doraemon is a massively popular and long-running anime television series that has been consistently running on television since 1979. You know, the one with the funny little blue guy and friends. However, the series actually started on TV way back in 1973, produced by a company named Nippon Telemovie Productions, and airing on the unrelated Nippon TV network from April 1st, 1973 until September 30th, 1973. 26 episodes were produced, with 52 shorts in total being made. Well, that's at least the boring part of the show. The real interesting bits come with how the show went missing in the first place. You see, due to various financial issues that came about with the studio and the show, NTV Video had to sell off much of the film reels and assets containing the show, and thus no one knows where much of this important series actually went. Well, at least it's better than the entire show being burned in a cremation fire like this is the 7th circle of Lost Media hell. Well, the show has been seen a few select times since its original run, including being briefly rebroadcast in 1981 and a few clips showing up here and there, especially in the background of a film. We'll just keep it there. You know the one. It's been up to the searchers to find the metric ton of content that went missing. Episodes 18 and 20 through 26 were found in storage at a studio in 1995. Then in 2003, other segments were found by the production chief Hiroshi Shimozaki. Finally in 2004, a Japanese student found an audio tape with the opening and closing credits contained on it. Mind you, most of this stuff isn't even available to the general public, but at least progress has been made over time to find this lost treasure in the Doraemon lore. World Championship Wrestling All Nighter is exactly what it sounds like. Wrestling.
At night.
With 2 shows airing in late night slots on TBS on March 6, 1994 and January 21st, 1995 between 12:05 and 6:05 a.m., the series was a compilation of various iconic matches and moments from the WCW, particularly showcasing matches from the Clash of the Champions events. Themed skits would also be placed in between the events featuring wrestling personalities of the time, like everyone drawing on Bobby Heenan's face while he slept. Fun times. The shows were actually a decent success despite it literally airing in the middle of the night, mostly due to WCW's home video presence being few and far between at the time. Thus, fans would be enabled to come and watch their favorite matches once again. However, due to the show's sheer length and time slot, it was not easy to preserve. Up until 2019, very little could be watched, as only the infamous drawing skit and a short promo were available. Afterwards, large chunks of the shows started to rapidly pop up both officially and unofficially, and finally on March 14th, 2023, Internet Archive user KRtDL3 uploaded both the 1994 and 1995 shows in full. Who knows, maybe Slamfest is hiding in one of these. Well, they say found media is the ultimate enemy to lost media, so I guess the randomizer today is becoming the greatest anti-hero of our generation. Goodnight Kiwi is a cute little television sign-off featuring the national bird of New Zealand, the kiwi, turning off the television operations and going to sleep. The animations, plural, were used on the New Zealand television stations TV2 in its brief rebranding to South Pacific Television between 1975 until the last network went fully 24/7 in 1994. Inspired by similar Australian sign-offs featuring a kangaroo putting her baby to bed, the network would hire former Disney animator Sam Harvey to create the iconic sign-offs. 3 different versions were produced between 1975 and 1980. The first version, created in 1975, saw the Kiwi as a director turning off the studio lights and walking out of the studio with his unusually proportioned cat. The second version, created in 1976 as a part of the rebrand to South Pacific Television, saw the Kiwi turn off the camera he was stationed at, then go into the apartment inside of it and shut the window. The third version, created in 1980 after SPT reverted back to TV2, would feature elements from the 2 other versions and would by far be the most well-known and widely used of the 3. This left the other 2 versions quite obscure for the longest time, and it wasn't until September 2016 and November 2019 respectively that the 1975 and 1976 versions would be found. Finally a shorter entry where I don't need to tell the entire Iliad. Jungle Emperor Kimba is a game that was supposed to be released for the Famicom in 1990, based on the popular manga/anime series Kimba the White Lion by Osamu Tezuka. Developed by Taito, not much is known about the game and its development, but what we do know is that the game was never released and no prototypes are known to be out there. Only a few screenshots and adverts are all that's left. See? Short and to the point. Time for my specialty, Nickelodeon. No One Knows Best was an interesting show to say the least. One of the most short-lived and ill-fated shows to ever air on Nick, right up there with Being the Sound of Something New. It had a short run from October 7th, 2000 to December 17th, 2000 at 8:30 p.m. on the SNCC programming block. It would end up becoming one of the last original shows to air in SNCC's primetime slot, and one of the last originals to be filmed at Nickelodeon Studios. The series starred Philip Van Dyke as Noah Besnick, as he and his sister Megan, played by Rachel Roth, live in an apartment in central New York City with their parents. They try to get each other in trouble, play up some wacky antics, and all as we follow Noah's social and school life. No wonder this show failed, just reading that plot summary made me keel over from boredom. Series creator Ken Littman would later state Nickelodeon's view of what the show should be and my vision of the show were not the same and they never really matched up, which was ultimately a reason for its lack of success. Yikes man, feeling for ya, for real for real. Despite 13 episodes being produced, only 5 aired on Nick due to low ratings, and only some scattered clips and parts of episodes are all that's available. Weirdly enough, a Russian dub was also produced for the Russian channel THT, where all 13 episodes aired and were made available on Dailymotion in July 2018. This leaves the footage available, but not the original English audio. I guess Noah didn't know what was best after all. October 24th, 2011, my channel's soundtrack was changed forever when the game Kirby's Return to Dreamland was released on the Wii. With such bangers as KROWNED, Another Dimension, and The Adventure Begins, my Lost Media videos would never be the same without these tunes. All jokes aside, what many people don't know is that Return to Dreamland had quite a few revisions before becoming the game we all know and love, dating all the way back to 2005. The first version was revealed at E3 2005 for the GameCube, with the working title of Kirby Adventure. This version would have had a 3D environment while being played horizontally, and also would support 4-player co-op multiplayer, working in a similar way to the previous Kirby multiplayer games where other players could use the copy abilities. This idea was reportedly cancelled because the developers were not achieving the level of quality they wanted. The second revision of the game was titled Hoshi no Kabi, which translates roughly to Kirby of the Stars. It appeared around 2006 on a page documenting upcoming games for the Wii. This time the game took a more open-world approach similar to what we would see in 2022's Kirby in the Forgotten Land. According to various sources, the game was supposed to be revealed at E3 2007, though after it did not appear, Beth Llewellyn of Nintendo of America did confirm that the project was still in development. Unfortunately, the project was cancelled shortly afterwards due to similar reasons as the first game. The third and final revision took a more traditional style of Kirby game, with the graphical style of a pop-up book. Not much is known about this version, but afterwards the development team chose to focus more on single-player instead of multiplayer. Elements from all three of these versions would be put together and be reworked to return to Dreamland, but it is unknown where any of the betas went. For all we know, they may have been destroyed. The 1982 Warner Bros. Animated comedy drama film Hey Good Lookin, directed by Ralph Bakshi, would have originally been a live-action and animated hybrid. You see, the film was announced all the way back in 1973, with animated versions of Vinny, Crazy, Rozzy, and Eva, characters that would go on to appear in the film, overlaid over live-action scenes and people. Critics and audiences first praised this style, and production was wrapped up by 1975. However, concerns would quickly arise. First, Bakshi's other film released around that time, Coonskin, featured some very controversial elements such as blackface, so there's that. Also, Warner didn't really like how the film turned out in the style, ordering that the entire film be redone in full animation. The film was finally delayed and eventually canned in 1976, but Bakshi gave in to Warner's request out of protest and remade the film to be completely animated, using financial backing from other Warner projects. The movie as we know it today would finally release in 1982 to lackluster reception, with even Bakshi believing the film would have been better off in its original state. While some animation of the characters was reused between the versions, the original 1975 cut was never released in full. According to Bakshi, Warner Bros. Might still have a finished copy of the 1975 version sitting in their vaults, but our only glimpse at it currently comes through a 1974 Warner Bros. Product reel. Narrated by Bakshi himself, this reel showcases some rare footage of the original ideas that never came to be. So, do you remember the television ghost? You know, that one lost early TV show that I made a video about back when I sounded like Mickey Mouse overdosing on various rare gases? Well, unsurprisingly, it turns out that there's quite a bit of early TV that has permanently disappeared off the face of the earth, and this century is no different. Masks Through the Ages is a program that was broadcast on the Bray Bray channel, you know, the BBC, between April and May 1937. Hosted by Duncan Melvin, the 4-part, 15-minute series aired every 2 weeks and educated viewers on the history of face masks throughout history. Considering this is early TV, not much is known about the series, but some small episode synopses survive. Episode 2 would have shown Duncan documenting the evolution of masks from ancient Egypt, Rome, and Asia. Episode 4 highlighted the production of masks, with mask producers showing off their work. Other than that, not much is left, and the show is permanently missing due to no viable recording method existing for TV until the 1950s. RIP. In 2012, good old Cartoon Network would celebrate 20 years of god-tier animated programming. In celebration of this, the network would revive Cartoon Planet, a block that aired older programming that otherwise didn't air on the network anymore. Like its original run, bumpers featuring characters from Space Ghost Coast to Coast would be squeezed into the block, sticking true to their personalities from the original. While some notable bumpers would be archived on the Cartoon Network YouTube channel, the show slowly phased out older programming and ended unceremoniously in 2014. This left much of the bumpers hidden away, though many have since reappeared through various uploads. When the famous Capcom fighting game Street Fighter graced upon arcades in 1987, ports of the game started to appear onto home consoles such as the ZX Spectrum, Amiga, Commodore 64, and TurboGrafx-16. Alongside these releases, a release for the original Nintendo, as my dad likes to call it, was planned but never went through. Not many specific details about the port are known. Only one Capcom sales brochure from 1988 even mentions the game, and a single screenshot taken off of a TV survives, featured in the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection's museum section. You know, when I say the words short-lived NBC sitcom, that could sound some bells in the Lost Media circle. Well, Turnabout is a short-lived NBC sitcom that aired from January 26, 1979 to March 30th of that year. Based on a 1931 novel of the same name, the show was created by Stephen Baccio and stars John Schuck and Sharon Gless as married couple Sam and Penny. Sam is a sports writer, while Penny is a cosmetics executive. After Penny purchases a Buddha statue, their lives change in only a way a 1970s sitcom could come up with. Sam is now in Penny's body, and Penny is in his, and of course wacky antics ensue. Right out of the gate, the show received poor ratings due to its extremely popular competition in Dallas on CBS, and NBC pulled the plug early on. After 7 grueling episodes, Turnabout was cancelled, and only 4 episodes are available today, with 2 partially available and 1 completely lost. But the show's presence doesn't end there. This found material also includes a 1981 TV movie titled The Magic Statue, which re-edited some of the episodes, added bridging segments, and removed the laugh track. The full movie was discovered on a private tracker, and shortly thereafter uploaded to YouTube in September 2021. Kyubi no Kitsune to Tobimaru, roughly translating to Tobimaru and the Fox with 9 Tails, is a Japanese animated film released on October 19th, 1968. Produced by Nihon Duga and distributed by Daiei Films, the film had a very limited release in a whopping 1 theater in Japan. Now I'm going to read the plot off the LMW because I'm tired of summarizing things. Tobimaru is the young emperor of Japan. He meets a mysterious woman named Tamamo. After successfully seducing Tobimaru, she brings great misfortune onto the land. Tobimaru discovers that Tamamo is actually a Kitsune and now has the task to unmask and kill her to save the land. The film was the brainchild of Gentaro Nakajima, who joined Daiei Films to pitch a live-action adaptation of the novel Tamamo no Mae. After this was shot down, he left the company and took it upon himself to produce the film with help from Toei Animation and writer Hideko Suzuki. Luckily for him, Daiei Film would return to distribute the movie. Let's just say the movie was not a critical and commercial success, mostly due to poor advertising and handling by Daiei. After the film had left the single, sad theater, Gentaro Nakajima kept the original negatives, which were handed down to his son after his passing. His son would then proceed to lose the negatives after some criminal activity, thus losing the movie as well. The film was thought to be lost for good until a 16mm theater print was discovered by the Tokyo Metropolitan Library, and since 2010 it has been screened a few select times. It has been speculated that the film was cut down to 68 minutes from the original 81-minute runtime, but in any case, no footage has been released publicly, and it's likely to stay that way. Tinseltown is an unsold pilot produced by the Jim Henson Company for the Logo Network in 2007. Airing as a part of the Alien Bootcamp programming block under the Henson Alternative banner, it featured both puppets and live actors in the titular town. The pilot follows the lives of a gay couple as they try to balance their work, their relationship, their family, and their lives in Hollywood. Bobby Vegan and Samson Knight, played by Bill Barretta and Brian Henson, are joined by Samson's ex-wife Lena, their foster son Foster, and their manservant Arturo. They go on wacky and kooky and crazy adventures, of course. The pilot used to be on Logo's website, but has now since disappeared entirely. While the show itself wasn't picked up, the Bobby and Samson characters would continue to make appearances in various Muppet videos and events. Really not much else to say, but there are some interesting character descriptions on the Muppet Wiki. Bobby Vegan, 80s sitcom star, hasn't worked out in 3 years, fresh out of rehab. Crazy Land, you say? You mean my life? This was supposed to be a localized version of the Famicom platformer Doki Doki Uenchi Crazy Land Daisuken, not to be confused with Doki Doki Panic, which didn't actually become Super Mario Bros. 2 and instead was a psyop by the Nintendo Ninjas to silence the Lost Levels Liberation Front. The original game, developed by KRtDL and published by VAP in 1991, was planned to be released in the States by NTVIC. A lot of acronyms right there. It was even exhibited at the Consumer Electronics Show in 1991, however the release quickly fell through for unknown reasons. The game did end up releasing in some parts of Europe as Trolls in Crazy Land, with the main character changed to Troll. This release was done by American Softworks Corp in November 1992, but once again, a US release was not seen, and a prototype remained elusive. This was until a YouTuber by the name of Steven78 found a ROM of the US version and posted a gameplay video, however it was not dumped. It wasn't until April 15th, 2019 when archival group Gaming Alexandria uploaded a scan of the Crazy Land manual, bringing us closer than ever to seeing this localized version found. Finally, on December 9th, 2022, Frank Cifaldi of the Video Game History Foundation was invited to the home of Edward J. Semrad, former editor-in-chief of Electronic Gaming Monthly. It was there he was given permission to dump a large number of video game prototypes, one of which was Crazy Land, putting the mystery 6 feet under once and for all. The Thing was an interesting movie to say the least. When released in 1982, John Carpenter's horror/sci-fi film was panned critically and commercially out of the gate, but over time grew a cult following to the point of being considered one of the best in the genre. What may have contributed to this initial backlash was the massive amount of material cut from the film before its release. While some of it was restored through home media releases and television broadcasts, much of it has not, and even the release scenes suffer from lackluster quality and cropping to 4:3. There are quite a bit of these listed, so I'll just list a few important ones. I'll also swipe these from the LMW since they do a good job explaining things. Probably the most infamous cutscene is the one where McReady watches some of the Norwegian tapes alone in his cabin whilst playing with a blow-up, doll. I have to keep it safe for work for YouTube purposes. It is unknown why it was cut, and all that exists is a single photograph. In the syndicated cut of the film, the one that aired on TV, the added narrator speaks as an Alaskan Malamute, implied to be the kennel thing somehow surviving, which runs off into the Arctic, with the narrator asserting no one knows if the thing can truly be destroyed. Also included are some unused shots of the Arctic landscape. This ending has been disapproved by John Carpenter himself. 2 endings were also filmed to satisfy executives who may have not liked the nihilistic tone. In the first ending, McReady awaits his death in the cold, but is found just in time by the rescue team, who attempt to confirm his identity with a blood test. It is still apparently left ambiguous, although McReady more than likely survived. Although it made it as far as test screenings, audiences seem to prefer the darker ending. It is unknown what happened to Childs in this ending. Only a production photograph has surfaced, proving the ending was filmed. There are tons more deleted bits, but that's all I'm going to say. Or at least, what the LMW has to say. Maybe I just let him write the video. He's pretty good at phrasing things. Okay, so before I get to the next entry, I want to show you a crazy thing that happened when I clicked the random page button on the Thing page. Yeah, so it literally took me back to Crazy Land, the previous entry I got. Now, there are literally thousands of pages on the LMW, and it just so happens to take me back to the page I was on before. I literally had to replay the footage back to see if my eyes were lying to me. Nope, welcome to Crazy Land. Jump from 1937 to 2007 in British television, and don't you touch that dial because this one's about smashing stuff. Crash Test Dummies was a show that aired on Sky 1 in 2007. Starring Steve Marsh and Dan Wright, and narrated by actor Brian Blessed, the show is all about trying to destroy really hard to destroy things, like a helmet or a boat or even a waterproof tent. Inside a car wash, of course. Scientific tests and experiments would also ensue. So essentially, it was a mix of Mythbusters and Destroy Build Destroy. 18 episodes were produced, but only 2 full ones and some short clips are available online. Thing is, when I try to search up literally anything from this show, it keeps coming up with the band Crash Test Dummies. So, there's that. Zazoo U is a children's television series that aired on Fox Kids from September 8th, 1990 to January 19th, 1991 for 13 episodes. Created by children's author Shane DeRolf, the show revolves around a university of animals who go on adventures, and, as quoted from the LMW, the extraordinary is ordinary. Episodes include finding a talking box of crayons, disputes about if bigger is really better, and earning money for the school to buy new musical instruments. Truly one of the most groundbreaking dramas of our time. Bravo, Vince. While 13 episodes were produced, only 11 actually aired due to the show getting cancelled. Out of those 11, only 6 are online from a few DVDs that were released in the UK. The show is not available on Disney+, at least not with that attitude. Oh boy, are you ready for more riveting British television? I know you are, yes I do. Written by British playwright J.B. Priestley in 1945, an Inspector Calls revolves around the upper-class Burling family in the fictional town of Brumley in 1912. After celebrating the engagement of their daughter, a mysterious figure known as Inspector Ghoul appears and interviews the family about the death of a young girl named Eva Smith. While various film and TV adaptations have been made over the years, such as the 1954 and 2015 versions, the 1948 adaptation is by far the most obscure. Little is known about it aside from one listing in the Radio Times, issue 1281. According to the listing, it would have aired on May 4th at 8:30 p.m. and starred George Hayes as the titular Inspector Ghoul, Alistair Bannerman as George Croft, and Julian Mitchell and Mary Merrill as Mr. Arthur Burling and Mr. Siebel Burling, respectively. Other than that, not much is known, and only one image from that listing is known to survive. Due to the fact that the BBC's reputation for preserving stuff isn't exactly the greatest, it's unlikely we'll see much more. Oh boy, are you ready for more riveting unreleased video games? I know you are, yes I do. Developed by Tengen in 1993, Interplanetary Lizards of the Texas Plains is an action game that was supposed to release for the Sega Genesis, but was cancelled likely due to Time Warner Interactive shutting down the company in 1994. The game was about 3 alien lizards, Doc, Rattler, and Tumbleweed, who land on Earth in 1950, where action antics ensue. Currently, only one prototype has been discovered in Connecticut in September 2014, but it was not dumped, and there seems to be no other updates regarding the discovery of this game. Between November 7th, 2014 to February 10th, 2016, singer-slash-songwriter Zella Day's life was profiled in the web documentary series Day by Day. Day, who was popularized by her debut studio album Kicker in 2015, was approached by director Gianno Solucci to create a documentary series for her YouTube channel. This series shows clips of the artist in her life as a musician, with each entry featuring some sort of song, whether it be a cover or an original. 10 one-minute episodes are known to be produced, with entries 6 and 8 being the only ones that were missing due to not being on Day's YouTube channel. It wasn't until January 26th, 2021, when YouTube user great name by the way, uploaded both of the missing entries, though entry 6 was in a bit lower quality than the rest. Alright, I've been writing random entries all day. I'm gonna go get some Cheetos and I'll be back to write the last 5 Lost Media thingies. After the famed puzzle game Tetris was developed by Soviet software engineer Alexei Pechinov in 1984, the rights for the distribution of the game internationally bounced around throughout the decade until settling on Tengen, a subsidiary of Atari Games, the same Tengen that developed Interplanetary Lizards of the Texas Plains. This led to an NES port of Tetris releasing in May 1989, however it was not without some legal troubles that would come to plague the game. Nintendo, who had obtained exclusive rights to Tetris through more official means, was sued by Tengen on the grounds of antitrust violations in April 1989. You know things are personal when Nintendo is the one getting sued and not the other way around. Their side claimed that Andromeda Software, the company who had gained the distribution rights in the first place, were the only ones who could legally develop Tetris games outside of the Big N, who went through a more official process to secure their rights. This is the side that won out in the end, and Tengen was forced to recall their version of Tetris. Jason, I love to tease everyone with my delicious prototype of Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill, Wilson, aka Dream TR, found a prototype of Tengen's Tetris, where he posted screenshots and gave way to interesting differences between the final version. However, no ROM was posted. It wasn't until September 8th, 2012, when Nintendo Age forum user Martin Alessi found a prototype of Tengen Tetris in his basement, believed to have been a review copy sent to him from his days at Electronic Gaming Monthly. He later sold off the prototype, and once again, no ROM was posted. And then, on January 1st, 2022, Hidden Palace came in clutch by posting not 1, not 2, not 8, but 4 whole prototypes of Tengen's Tetris, provided by Steve Lin. Well, DJ Khaled always said another one, as in another British television series. Julia, Jekyll, and Harriet Hyde is a children's television series that aired on BBC One from September 29th, 1995 to April 2nd, 1998 for 3 seasons and 54 episodes. The show stars Julia Jekyll, a student at the prestigious Rocket Academy, who develops a delicious drink as a part of the science project. Sharon and Nicola, the science teacher's nieces and school bullies, put a hair growth formula in the drink to ruin the project. When Julia drinks the potion, she turns into a beast known as Harriet Hyde. Antics ensue, of course. While most of the episodes were online at some point in time, through various channel terminations and incomplete recordings, the full show constantly remained elusive. It wasn't until June 13th, 2022, when Internet Archive user Classic Telly Enjoyer uploaded the final episode, Dear Aunt Augie, in full, rendering the entire show completely found. Now, let's pray to the lost media gods that I get some actual variety in these last few entries and not more British TV or some random NES game. If you've owned a Nintendo console in the past 20 years, you've definitely made the wonderfully customizable avatars known as Miis. Introduced on the Wii in 2006, everything from Betty White to a hamburger to that one kid around the block that threw a rock through your window can be created as a little person in your Nintendo console. While Miis as we know them first appeared on the Wii, precursors had been developed as far back as the Famicom days in the 1980s. The Mario man himself, Shigeru Miyamoto, had always wanted to create some sort of avatar editor on a Nintendo console, and came up with a prototype for the Famicom disk system. However, higher-ups couldn't figure out a way to turn it into a game, and so the idea was shelved. This early concept was first shown off at the 2007 Game Developers Conference, and revealed a lot more complicated designs for the customizable avatars we know and love. Fast forward to the 2000s, when Miyamoto once again experimented with the idea of customizable avatars. Mario Artist's Talent Studio for the 64DD released in 2000 with an avatar creator, but come on man, that console was a dumpster fire, we don't talk about that. You may have even heard of Stage Debut, a cancelled game for the GameCube which also had customizable features. It wasn't until Nintendo's software planning and development team was found to be making a game for the DS based on the traditional Japanese game of Fukuware. The game, known as Otana no Onna Orani Teko, which translates to Adult Woman Fortune Telling Notebook, was shown to Miyamoto, who liked the idea so much that he joined the team. Once again, they couldn't find a decent enough use for the avatars, which this time resembled the Miis far more closely. It wasn't until the team developing Wii Sports found out that the Mii channel we know was born. Today, none of these early concepts and prototypes can be found, with only screenshots making their way out. So, have you heard of SpongeBob Hemp Pants? You know, the famous parody where all the SpongeBob characters become drugs? No? Well, you're missing out. This little sketch was made for the short-lived animated sketch comedy series VH1 Illustrated, which aired on VH1 and MTV2 from October 17th, 2003 to June 25th, 2004. Conceived by animation producer Bob Seska and his company Camp Chaos Productions, the show was your run-of-the-mill sketch comedy shtick which parodied real-world events and celebrities. Aside from SpongeBob, of course, who is based and built different so much that none of his episodes aired. Other famous parodies include Yogi Bear but with famous American politicians of the time, Popeye the Sailor Man as an anime, and the band Guns N' Roses working in a McDonald's. Fun times. What's not so fun, however, is the fact that outside of some of the more famous sketches, some of the show has become lost over the years. Only a few full episodes, uploaded by YouTube user Nostalgic around 10 years ago, are out in the great beyond. Oh yeah, and SpongeBob is also available online. Thank God, because society could not possibly function without it. Last one. Published from 2012 to 2015 by various authors, the sci-fi novel series Infinity Ring focuses on the adventures of Dax Smith, Sarah Frost, and Reek Jones as they try to fix changes in time created by the SQ Secret Society. Announced on August 28, 2012, an episodic browser game was released concurrently with each entry in the book series. You could choose to play as each of the three main characters, where you could perform certain tasks to progress through the storyline, tied to the historical period in the corresponding book. The game also used codes which could only be found within the books, moving the narrative and unlocking new episodes along the way. 7 episodes were released alongside the first 7 books in the series, but in 2018, Scholastic took down the official website for the book series a few years after it ended. This left the entirety of the browser game in Lost Media limbo, and that's how it remains to this day. None of the episodes have been archived, and it is unknown where they ended up. And so, that's another day, another 25 pieces of randomized Lost Media to store away in your head. Don't worry, my brain is only slightly fried from all those lost British shows and rare NES games. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Lost Media Wiki for making this video possible in the first place. Without you and your random page button, I would have friends. All jokes aside, I haven't uploaded any Lost Media content, or content for that matter, in a while, so I hope you all enjoyed this interesting little adventure. This was a bit of a different and longer video than I would usually make, mostly due to the fact that I was getting burnt out with my usual style, so now I get to test it on you, the viewer. I certainly got more in the tank for the next few months, so let's cross our fingers and hope I don't take eons to actually get those finished. This will be the summer that defines this channel. Maybe. This has been Bray Bray, thanks for watching, like, subscribe, and remember that Buff Yoshi is forever supreme.